You know, this mission was 35 years ago, which is a lot of time. For 10 years, we were forbidden to talk about it. It was top secret. Then, after first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein wasn't that big anymore, we were allowed to start and brief about it, mostly in the Air Force, some other places in the Israeli military. And for 10 years, I was speaking about these sorties. After 10 years, I said, enough is enough. And the last 15 years, I basically refused to talk about it. But I cannot resist Alfred. And since you ask, it is an important mission in the history of Israel, because never before a nuclear reactor was preempted to save a nation. There was an attack even in World War II on nuclear facilities, but it was not a case of one tactical mission that basically decided the face of a nation and the history. But as a young fighter pilot, you know, today from my 60s, 30 years old, look to me like very young. A young fighter pilot, you are not interested in history. You're interested in taking your flying machine, fly 1,000 kilometers, which is beyond what the designer of the airplane thought that it can fly without air refueling. We didn't have air refueling capabilities in the early 80s, without GPS, without even a reconnaissance picture of the target. And do all this in time of a war. Iran and Iraq were in a war at that time. So the level of alert and readiness was very, very high. And you come to an area that there is no mountains there, you know, the valley between the two rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, and you know that you will be discovered, you will be picked up by the early warning radars. So a very tough mission for a fighter pilot, but every pilot in the squadron was fighting to be in the group of 8 and to fly. So it was a professional mission, but I always, between year 10 to year 20, when I spoke about it, I say the heroes of this mission, historical mission, are not the pilot. The heroes is those who have taken the decision to do it. This is a leadership. This is a leadership that take tough decisions, even they know what are the risks and the consequences. And I was lucky enough in 2007 to be among those decision makers. And only then I understood my slide, why it's so important and so difficult to be the decision maker. Because let me end this part of the interview with a small anecdote. In the Israeli Air Force, the culture is that every second lieutenant can challenge a general, or the commander of the squadron, the commander of the wing, the commander of the base. And among the 8 pilots, there was only one pilot who was not participated before in Yom Kippur War. And he raised his hand in the briefing and asked the Air Force commander, look, we are going to destroy the nuclear reactor of Iraq, but I think this is very risky. According to all our calculation, 4 out of 8 will not come back. And we will destroy the nuclear reactor. But the Iraqis will have more motivation. They have a lot of money from the oil, and the French will sell the reactor to whoever gives them $1 billion. And within 2 years, there will be a new reactor there. So what we are doing is that's worthwhile. Interesting question to the Air Force Commander General. The Air Force Commander General was about to answer it, but there was one general with a higher rank there, the Chief of Staff, the Ramatkal, Raful Eitan, a farmer from a Moshav. I suspect he never graduated high school, but he gave a speech that I will take with me to my last day on the difference between theory and practice. And he said, you know, it will not be 2 years, because until Saddam Hussein will understand what happened, and he will have to think whether the Israelis will come again, and he already allocated his money, and the French may be hesitating to sell. It will not be 2 years, it will be 5 years. And for 5 years, you can risk your life, because you volunteer to be pilot, and that's a mission to do. Thanks God, it's 35 years, and maybe even more.